Welcome to the EMEA Recruitment Podcast in partnership with our friends at international medical charity Operation Smile. Give the gift of a smile by donating to this cause at emearecruitment.com/operation-smile. In this episode, we speak to Bas Walraven, the Director Accounting, Risk and Compliance at bol.com. Bas explains how he has learned to build excellence in finance operations.
So hello everybody, welcome to the next episode of the EMEA Recruitment podcast in partnership with our good friends over at Operation Smile. As my colleague Rose mentioned, we're delighted to welcome Bas onto the podcast today. So assuming you can hear me okay, I thought I'd fire in with the first question, to be honest, Bas. I know, as I mentioned there, the show is in partnership with Operation Smile, and I thought a nice way to ease you into the podcast with a fairly light-hearted question would be to ask you what was the last thing that made you smile, Bas?
Yes, thanks, Paul. It was yesterday. So I've got some family in Switzerland actually, and they came over yesterday to see us and be with us for a few days, and that was awesome. We haven't seen them for quite a while, obviously in the situation of the pandemic, and it was absolutely awesome to see them again and welcome them in our little place of Naarden and be with them for the next few days. Family is super important to me, so awesome to see them again.
Oh, that's really cool. I mean, as you mentioned there, I think it's a challenge that a lot of people have had with the whole COVID situation in terms of meeting up with family and friends, whether they've been local or whether they've been international. So I suppose a conversation that does come up quite a lot in the podcast these days is, how you've dealt with the whole COVID situation. I mean, things are starting to get a bit better now. We're recording this mid-October in 2021, where life is starting to return a bit more back to normality. But is there anything maybe that you learnt from the whole COVID situation? Because it was challenging, but I think for most people there was some learning elements to it. So anything particularly that would highlight in terms of what you learned from that time? Yeah, absolutely. So in the beginning or before the COVID, I was absolutely in favor of working from the office for most of the time, and so for 5 days. And I could not imagine that a hybrid way of working was working out so well. And I think it gave a lot of room to the team. Also to combine family things or things at home that just need to be done in combination with doing the work. And I think that the hybrid way of working is really the way forward. And I could not have imagined that before COVID. And I think it gives a lot of room to the people, and it's super good for the team. It makes us better effectively. It really makes us better. Could not have seen that coming. No, that's it. And I think it's given a lot of people time to reflect on what they prioritize in their lives and what they focus on. And I think so far in your answers, there's been a bit of a common theme with the family elements to your life. So I know you have quite an interesting background, because if I'm right, I think, did you meet your partner when you were over in Australia for PwC? Is that when you met?
You're partly right. So I did meet my partner at PwC indeed. So when I was in my second year at PwC when she started, and indeed we went to PwC Australia together as part of a secondment. And that was the first time, indeed, we lived together. Yeah, it was an awesome time, and it's from a professional perspective, but also from a personal perspective, to be 2.5 years in the other side of the world, and no kids yet, and really make the best of it from a professional and a personal point of view.
No, it's really, really interesting, because I know that when we speak to people about their careers and their choices in life, it's quite rare that somebody finishes their studies and thinks, right, I want to be an accountant, or I want to be a supply chain manager, whatever the discipline may be. Usually the career chooses the person, and it's often the taking calculated risks on moves, whether it's moves internationally or moves to going to different companies. It that shapes the rest of your career. So I mean, I suppose you've only spoken in positive light about your experience in Australia. I mean, is it something that you would advise people to do, to push themselves out of the comfort zone and to try these different things?
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. So it gave a lot of benefits to me, but also to my. She experienced the same. Obviously, it's not always as easy. So it's from a professional point of view. And so at PwC in Amsterdam, everybody knew who I was as a person, who I was as a professional. And obviously, on the other side of the world, you have to build that from scratch. It's only for 2 years, so it's a locked period of time. Also, from a social point of view, so all your friends are in the other side of the world, back in Amsterdam, and you have to build that up. So it can be quite tough as well. But obviously, it's just awesome to go through that and really find out how you can do that, how you can build up your credits again, and really prove yourself from scratch as a professional and who you are as a person. That's sometimes tough and intense, but I mean, the benefits and how you grow as a person and as a professional is just awesome. And for us also as a couple.
I mean, I think you mentioned there the growing as a person. I think obviously the role of finance has changed dramatically over the last 20 years. I mean, I think, certainly when I started in the world of finance recruitment, it wasn't always the case where, finance roles were seen as business partners, whereas now predominantly, regardless of the level of the role, you've got to be strong in dealing with people in your team and different divisions as well. And that kind of experience, pushing yourself out your comfort zone, working in different countries, I mean, it's only got to help on the personal development side, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you see the expertise and which people are needed in the finance department is changing and has changed over time. And if I look at my own teams, so at Booking as well as in Bol.com, we made specific choices on what skill set to add to the team. So recently, we really choose to add data analyst skills to the team. And at Booking with building innovation teams, we really choose to put process engineers to the team. It was deliberate choice to do that, and so 10 years ago or so, we that was not on the radar for us in a corporate accounting team.
No, I think we're going to touch on the areas of BI and data a little bit later on in the conversation as well. But I mean, I thought, touching on what we've spoken about a little bit earlier on, I mean, what was it that was your motivator to start a career in finance, Bas?
Yeah, so when I started my career, I did my internship at a private equity company. That was where my interest was, and the people, the mentor there at that company also was a chartered accountant, and he said, "Well, Bas, but I really benefited from a stable financial background, and that was always the basis for me to make or investment decisions or other things that went well in his career." So as a fundament, basically, and that was. But I was looking for the next step. What should I do? And literally, I think 4 or 5 days after that conversation, I was in contact with PwC, and 3 days later there was an interview and a contract. So it also happened super fast, but I'm very happy with that decision. So I was with PwC for 8.5 years, and it was an absolute great fundament and backbone of who I am as a professional.
I mean, I think there's two interesting things there, Bas. I mean, what you tend to find is that people are inspired by the people that they surround themselves with, I mean, and it's not uncommon for people to have this situation that you found yourself, where someone's inspired you to take the move into finance, and then you've taken that step. But as you say, moving on, it was, when you go into a Big Four environment, it's got to be seen largely as a medium to longer term move, especially with the intensity of the studies. I know you qualified in the RA field, and I think one of the challenges, I think, with let's say some of the younger generation coming through these days, is having that patience and that focus on the study side to get to that qualification is a bigger challenge than probably what it was for people of our generation. So maybe it might be good just to ask you what you benefited from giving the time and the efforts into PwC in the early days and getting that RA qualification, how what you learned from it in terms of not just the technical side, but also personally as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So indeed, it was it took time, it took effort. It wasn't easy. You do the studies and the exams during the Christmas holidays or things like that. But I think in the end, what it gave me was it shows me that persistence also and really the will to get somewhere, super important. And if you want to get somewhere, it takes time, it takes effort, and in the end, when you reach the finish line, it's really rewarding, and not only at that point in time, but it proves that you have that background, and people can rely on that. Also, when they don't know you or they hire you or whatsoever, it's a true investment in who you are as a professional, but also in your career. And it's not necessarily that when I did that was my objective, but it was definitely something that gave me in my career going forward. So super hard investment, super tough, but clearly it showed the persistence, and it gave me a lot of benefits going forward. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, definitely. I know, because I'm wondering, I guess, linked to that, as somebody who set up a business with his wife, it sort of, with yourself going through that process with PwC with your partner and now wife, I mean, was that something that made it a bit more enjoyable as well, that you were both going through the same challenges at the same time? Of course, and I think that also made it easier. So obviously I did some studies with my wife indeed. But when you start at PwC in that time, I think there were around 40 people or so, and that were going through the same experience, the same hard time with the studies and the exams. So and when we at Christmas break or so, it were like 10 or 15 people who were during the Christmas break in the office studying their exams, and it was it was a great time. It was hard, but it was also a great time of going through that all together with 10 or 15 friends. And in the early days of your career, it's super important to have that social element to it as well. So really, that really helped. No, excellent. And I guess moving forward a bit to the present day now, I mean, I know Rose at the start of this mentioned that you obviously now in the Director of Accounting, Risk and Compliance at bol.com. And I thought I'd ask you, what does it feel like to be in this position now, Bas?
Yeah, it feels awesome. And in So the scope of what I really like of the position is the scope is really broad. So it goes from hardcore accounting, corporate accounting and reporting, but also the financial close. We have accounts payable team, but also, for example, internal control team, a compliance team, so much broader around the company, and also an operational excellence team. And so I really like that the scope is really broad with a broad range of professionals, but also the high pace of change and a massive, highly dynamic environment where it's super important to have a clear focus on the goals, and you really can only do that with an awesome team. So building that team of talents that can deliver on these goals in such a broad scope, and also, but like you mentioned it before, be the right business partner on one of these elements of the scope. I'm really honored to leading that team and to be in that role since now for 2 years already. Yeah.
Hi everybody, it's Paul Thomas here. I hope that you're well and you're enjoying the podcast so far. Thank you once again for your continued support listening to the podcast. I just wanted to break into the recording to talk to you about a really exciting new partnership that EMEA Recruitment has along with Operation Smile. And as founder of EMEA Recruitment, it's an honour and a privilege to announce this partnership. Personally, I was born with a cleft lip and palate, so the mission of Operation Smile is something that I have a strong personal connection with. It's not an understatement to say that the dentists and surgeons that helped me were life changers. It's not only about the actual operations that take place. The support and care post and pre-operation are beyond value. And from personal experience, I can only say that I'd not be the confident, happy person I am today without this support. I want to help children experience the support and care and skill that I experienced on my journey, and hope that we can do this along with Operation Smile. Every 3 minutes, a child is born with a cleft lip or cleft palate, and the mission of Operation Smile is to provide help and support to these children through providing 6,000 medical volunteers across 80 countries who are dedicated to help these children with facial conditions, most commonly cleft lip and cleft palate. More than 200,000 children are born with a cleft every year, and they are often unable to speak, eat, socialise or even smile. However, it can take as little as 45 minutes and cost just €180 or 182 francs for Operation Smile to provide a child with life-changing surgery. Now, in partnership with Operation Smile, EMEA Recruitment is raising valuable funds and aiming to create 100 new smiles to support the organisation to provide free surgeries for children and young adults all over the world. Please help us by donating through the link in the bio, or get in touch to see how your company can help get involved too. For the moment, I'll leave you to carry on listening to the rest of the podcast, but if there's anything I can do in terms of answering any questions or finding out how you can help and support EMEA Recruitment and Operation Smile, then please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you once again, and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
No, it's great. It's great to hear. And I know obviously before you moved to Bol, you had the period at booking beforehand, and I thought it was because your background's a bit interesting, because obviously, you know, when you moved into the Big Four, it wasn't the direction of audits or so on that a lot of people then take to move into these types of roles that you have now at Bol. You were doing transactions and those and operational excellence positions, which I guess, you know, obviously linked into the current position. So what was it? Something that you were thinking about when you moved into transaction services and ops excellence, that this is something you really enjoy and want to see almost as your end game in your career? Is that how that happened, or was it more by chance?
No, so when I started at PwC and became a chartered accountant, I decided to move to transaction services. That was absolutely on purpose, because I think the chartered accountant often look backwards, right? So and when you try to support a CFO or whatsoever, it's just more interesting to look forward instead of looking to things that already happened effectively, right? So that was super important for me to try to learn how to assess risks going forward, or how to look at things going forward, or financial events going forward. And then when I moved to booking, I really wanted to be part of a company that in a high pace environment. And at booking, I basically learned how to scale a finance operations department. And so it was relatively big, obviously, already by then. But what it really brought me was a clear vision on how people, process, and technology link together, and how you need to use that framework to scale a finance operations department, and how important a safe culture, how automated or first stable processes lead to automation of processes, and how technology only works as an enabler when you have the right people and the right processes in place. And having that clear vision brought me to bol.com, because that was exactly what was needed there at that point in time. And there I could sort of bring my vision to life as a director of the department, which was an awesome opportunity.
No, that's it. And I know, awesome opportunity and a great company as well. So it's excellent that the career has moved in this direction for you. So between PwC, Booking, and Bol, three great brands, organizations on there, and they're very different, but all adding value and a good fit for you as well. And I think the theme that you've mentioned a few times there is people, having good people around you, and having good teams around you. And I think obviously with it being a recruitment podcast, we can't really have this discussion without mentioning people, so it's what challenges have you faced over the years in terms of, I suppose, having an efficient recruitment process, and what do you do differently now to maybe what you did 4, 5, 6 years ago?
Yeah, so indeed, I think I'm recruiting people now. Yes, 7, 8 years or something. Indeed, that I'm building teams, and what I've learned over these years, it's just absolutely critical to go for that top talent and never settle for second best. And that's just something which is especially also these days in a tough labor market. It's sometimes difficult, and it's tempting to do so. But that was what I absolutely the number one learning, and just have a super clear focus on what do you need, what does the team need to be successful, not only today, but be successful in 2 years or something. If you live in such a high growth environment, to really look forward and never settle for second best, and have a clear view on what you need in 2 years' time, and that is the person that you need to recruit.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think it's one of those things that, especially when the market is very buoyant. So, I mean, a bit like it is in the Netherlands now. I mean, it's difficult not to make a quick hire and wait for the right hire, because obviously, you've got the demands and the pressures on you in the short term that need to be answered, and sometimes it can be challenging to sit back and wait for the right person to come along. But I think hiring the wrong person can be very much more difficult than waiting for the person. And so maybe a difficult question for you to answer, I think, Bas. But what do you think the true cost of the wrong hire actually is?
Yeah. So well, of course, I also went through that experience once in my career, and you learn from it the hard way. But it's enormous, right? And I think there are basically two ways or two different types of wrong hires. One can be regarding a behavioral element. The other one can be around sort of the output element. I think the behavioral element is probably even worse than the output element. But the costs are enormous, right? And I think it's really up to the hiring manager or the leader of the group to do everything they can to overcome that. And indeed, like you said, not just wait and see what was coming on a vacancy, but also use the internal recruitment department to the max, or use an external recruiter to just make sure you hire the absolute best people you can, and also create an environment and a team that these top talents really can be successful in, that they really want to work for. It's just really that you do whatever you can or what is within reach to build the best team. And that is also with the support of external recruitment sometimes. Absolutely. It's just too costly to make the wrong choice. And you should also not do that towards your own team. It's a responsibility.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's one of those things that, I think we see more actually now as a result of COVID. But I think people spend a lot more time analyzing the statistics on LinkedIn about the retention of people and the types of people who are working for a company. A lot of the decision process comes down to the values and ethics that a business has. But I think ultimately the one thing that has remained consistent, as I've seen it for 20 years, is really it's about the relationship between the hiring manager and the person. If there's a lot of synergies there and there's a good relationship between those two individuals, then both sides tend to work harder to make it work, and I think that's often the toughest thing to try and find, especially now with the additional technology that's out there. It's getting harder and harder to get people actually together physically in a room. Which almost it affects not just recruitment, but obviously I think for the finance discipline as well. I mean, we talked about it earlier about BI and data and the changes that it's having on finance. So I thought that I'd sort of also ask you the question. I mean, how do you feel the impact has been of BI and data on finance over the last 12 months or so, and what do you think it's going to be like for the future?
Yeah, so I think it becomes more and more important, and I think that the skill set of a data analyst or even a data scientist, but getting that intelligence out of the data is just extremely important to be able to provide the right decisions towards the business, or make the right decisions yourself. But also, like I mentioned before, the process engineers who look into the processes, make clear and visible on where the processes need to be changed, to be more stable, and to build the right fundament for technology, to enable technology to be an enabler for scalability. And so from one side, to create real insights from data, on the other side, to build a stable fundament and robust fundament for technology to be an enabler for scalability. That's where I see going forward even more these skill sets coming in finance operations or in finance in general. Next to this, I think still the hardcore technical accounting, but also internal control expertise, especially on IT. And so how to build a safe internal control framework around technology also remains super important. So that doesn't go away. But the added skills of process engineers or data analysts, data scientists, gets more and more important.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a big learning curve, for anybody, even people who've been in the finance discipline for a number of years, such as yourself. It's a learning curve, how BI and data can be used to the benefits of making great decisions. And obviously, as part of that, it's also learning when to stop analysing and to make a decision. I think that's one of the feedback we've had that from some people, that there is a danger where you can just get so stuck in the analysis that it makes decision making longer sometimes. But I think it's all about the learning curve. And I mean, I guess on that side, obviously in other areas, as well. I mean, how do you keep learning yourself and keep pushing yourself in other areas of finance? Because you obviously got the RA, you're in a great job now, you get managing people, pushing BI and data forward and those types of things. So how do you stay up to date on the best practices in your discipline?
Good question. Good question. So at Booking, but also definitely at Bol.com, we have great leadership courses that sometimes are internally provided or externally provided. But leading teams and making people better every single day is obviously extremely important in my role. I think also the other directors or the people around me and being open for discussions or other views also obviously helps me on a daily basis. Other things are we have our mother company always helps us and guides us on risk management or other things where they share their best practices and where we really learn from. Yeah, and sometimes you go to these to the seminars, but also being open-minded on what's out there, which technologies are out there, and what are the best practices on relatively standard processes of accounts payable or expense claim processes or financial close. So technology companies or who are new on the market or so, they often want to show and prove their technology, and that's for me also a really good way of getting to know what's out there.
No, that's it. I think it's really important that, as you say, that you keep pushing yourself in this direction because, I mean, someone in your position with the qualifications you have, you could be forgiven to thinking, well, okay, I've got my RA, I'm in a job that I wanted at the start of my career, so I can take it easy a bit now. But actually, if you get, there's so many new things coming up, especially with technology, that you have to keep approaching each situation and each day learning new things. And I suppose aligned to that as well. I mean, we've talked a lot about what you've done historically and how you've got to this point today. But I thought I'd, with the penultimate question, just ask you if there's one thing that you're really aiming to achieve in the next 12 months.
Yeah, of course. And I think also on this one, I do come back to the people element. And of course, the most challenging thing is really to just keep up with the dynamic environment. But the one thing that I really want to achieve going forward is really to give the team obviously the clear focus, but also to create to make sure we hire the right talent, not only for today but really for the future. And sometimes that's just difficult. And if you have 7 vacancies in a team of 40 or so, that is quite a bit. And it also gives an additional pressure to the people who sit there. They have to absorb the additional workloads. And I think it's really my responsibility and my task to create an environment and to create a team that's fit for the future. And not only do hire whenever there is a spot or so, but also look forward and make sure we are prepared for the future. And in this market, that is sometimes tough. So my aim for the next 12 months is to really make sure the team is ready for deliver our targets, our ambitions in the next 12 months and ready in time. So we have a team, we have an environment that everybody feels safe, feels absolutely enabled to be successful as a professional, as a person, and whenever that's created, I'm absolutely sure we deliver on our ambitions in the future.
I mean, it's great to hear. And I guess the fact that obviously you're able to get back in the office now a bit more and see the team in person, that's got to help for yourself and the team as well to able to get to that goal.
Yeah, absolutely. So also being back in the office, awesome to see each other again. You see, it does create also a different vibe again. Good to see each other, to have some drinks and have a little bit more time for chit chat. And really convinced that this is the way forward. The combination of working from home and working from the office and being able to also have some group events again. Yeah. That's the way forward. Absolutely. So
I know we started the conversation on a fairly light-hearted, humorous question, and so I thought we'd end the conversation on a similar vein. So I thought I'd just ask you what the biggest surprise you've had in the last few months was, and why was it?
Yeah. So in a dynamic environment, the fast-paced environment where we on a daily basis we look forward and we sometimes get frustrated on things that don't go right or that don't go fast enough. I'm always surprised by the fact how impactful it is to take a step back in a team meeting or so, to take the team with me, take a step back, look at the goals from, for example, half a year ago or last quarter, and acknowledge where we came from, acknowledge the effort and the investment that we provided to achieve the goals, and the impact of really celebrating success. And that is sometimes a pitfall that we're so focused on what's ahead of us, we're so focused on the goals of the next quarter or the next half year, that we just literally forget to look back and forget to acknowledge the investment and the successes that we achieved. And the impact of acknowledging and celebrating success, taking the time to be together and celebrate success and acknowledge the effort is it's just really powerful. And sometimes we just forget about that. And I'm always getting a bit surprised on the impact if we do take the time of celebrate success, and we do take the time to look back and acknowledge all the efforts that we give into it.
No, I mean that's it. I mean, I think any individual or any company who have experienced success over the last 24 months, has got to look back and be proud of that situation. I mean, I can't imagine there's going to be much tougher times, to be around, hopefully, than what we've experienced in our personal and work lives over this period. So I think anybody who's had any level of success over this time should certainly, be very pleased with what they've achieved. And it sounds like everything's gone in the right direction for yourself and your team, Bas, and now things are starting to get back to normal. You can only see that going further and better for all of you guys. So again, it's been great to have you on the podcast then, to hear about your story and what you've learned. I know the network will take a lot from it as well. So just on that point, I didn't know if any of the network wants to reach out to you. What's the best way they can connect to you, Bas?
Yeah, they can always reach out through LinkedIn. That's the best way. Okay,
perfect. Well, I mean, what we do when we promote the podcast, we'll make sure we have a link to your page on that as well, to make it easy for people to connect with you. And I guess all that's left to say is just a huge thank you for taking the time with us. Really enjoyed it. As I say, I know it'll be beneficial to our network, and thanks again for everything, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks, Paul. It's been an honor.
Nice one. Cheers, Bas. Speak to you soon.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. If you'd like to reach out to Paul or myself, please feel free to send a connection through on LinkedIn. And if you'd like to listen to previous episodes of the podcast, you can find them all at our website, www.emearecruitment.eu.